did this, but also
Babylon Buddhism
produced
season
this.
2, yeah, we're live.
This kind of
yes.
images.
And then, which I mentioned in the other podcast, then I published this in the first issue of Babylon, and look at now, I didn't realise that published full frontal male nudity.
It's illegal. It's prosecuted. You couldn't do it.
I did it.
You did it.
Without
Okay.
realising.
What year was that?
And yet, reading this, an MP had got in touch with a Labour MP from the Rother Valley had got in touch with the Home Office asking them to ban my magazine and charge me for inciting people to break the law, because in the page here I say all you need to do is put your hand in the ground, 6 inches in the ground, your finger, and plant a seed.
Wow.
Now that upset the MP, but nobody bothered
What
with
is,
that.
what is this magazine?
This is the first copy of Homegrown which I published. This is the first issue, Europe's first dope magazine, 1977.
Europe's first dope magazine. Can I have a look at
And
it?
I was sued by Rothmans Cigarettes for the spoof of their ad here with the pilot. Instead of Rothmans having his
Let me just put it on camera. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's worth
This is very
deconstructing.
deep. This is the first European dope magazine. We're here with Lee Harris. Can you see that? Yeah, it's actually crazy. You were sued for this image.
Well, this Rothmans Cigarettes tried to get the original copy of the spoof ad and were threatening me with all their legal forces, but I held on to it, and then they got off my back.
So was this a magazine you could actually buy? You could purchase this?
Yes. So it was very difficult to find
45p, adults only.
distributors. Even the porn merchants didn't want to take it.
LSD and the Mind Alchemist.
Yes, of course.
The Ganja of Love.
Yes, the Ganja of Love was about the Bowls of Bengal, who are the vagabond stone musicians who sing these songs to the Ganja of Love. And it's, of course, quite a stone. It's online now, all the 10 issues.
Europe's first dope magazine. That's deep. This is super special to me. Can I just actually, so this is season 2, everyone, welcome. Babylon Buddhism. And to be honest, this is the most and deepest one for me so far. 2 people that I actually admire and am very inspired by. I mean, the fact I'm holding Europe's first dope magazine is inspirational from a journalist point of view, from someone who's trying to push a high message. Lee, could you explain just who you are? Your name is Lee Harris.
Yes.
Yeah. What's your purpose in life?
Well, I've had many purposes, and one of them is to change the laws on cannabis. And I was on the first rally in Hyde Park in 1967 during the hippie era, and I hate to tell the story, but I was wearing something like this. I had a kaftan on, and there's a butter moustache down to here, and I picked up some flowers and leaves in a garden somewhere in West Kensington and put them in my hair.
Wow.
And when I was walking up there, and I had a badge on which said no search without a warrant. And when I was walking down the road that Sunday, all the kids were shouting, "Hello Jesus, hello Julius Caesar." And I got into a taxi and arrived in Hyde Park, and all the hippies had decided to dress up. And there was Eric Clapton in a hand-painted coat, and there was all sorts of people, and so I fitted in quite well. But I was photographed and later appeared the next day in The Guardian, and so I was an image for and in Panorama Hippies.
Wow.
So
Wow.
sometimes I would see this image of me turning round with dark glasses too, having a good laugh with this, which I eventually got a copy of the BBC. So I've been part of the cannabis movement in one way or other, writing magazines or comics or running a head shop for 45 years in Rasta Culture Shop.
Rasta Culture Shop, you're the right person. Wow.
Working at festivals and bringing up a family and having a good time. And I was lucky to stand just over 2 years ago as Mayor for London for the Cannabis is Safer Than Alcohol party.
cannabis is safer than alcohol party.
which is trying to remove
Sure.
this stigma. And it was around that time when I did my first hustings at Conway Hall, where I met you, Aaron, and
Yes.
I met Yewande then.
Yes, that was
Same evening.
quite a memorable
So that's
day
quite
for me.
memorable,
Yes.
It's a very special day. So we met, all three of us met on the same day. I was very interested in kind of politics and how they can turn a blind eye to marijuana and spend so much money trying to, you know, stop us from smoking it instead of really understanding the benefits of it. So I met you two there. Explain who you are, please, Queen, to the camera, and just your name.
Hi, my name is Yewande, and I'm very pleased to be here. How did I get into this? So I came from an academic route, so I was interested in exploring how cannabis has become a medicine. So in short, how has cannabis moved from being something that was stigmatized, and now we're seriously looking at it as a medicine. So one of the things that I really want to bring to the discussion at all times is the training as academic makes you be independent, or try and be as independent as possible. And also my training as a historian, I'm kind of looking at the sources. It's the evidence that speaks, it's not my opinion.
Wow.
So I have to gather evidence from different places.
Yeah.
That's a discipline as a historian. So that's how I met both of you. So although I was looking at it that I'd interviewed scientists, I'd interviewed some patients, I wanted to see, well, what's the discussion, what's the politics around that. So that's really how I fit into this.
That's when we came along. Politics.
Yeah, the politics. So it's so everyone has kind of a fair share at the whip, and the general public have an understanding that there are different opinions, you know, and how do they negotiate? It can help them kind of negotiate around the different opinions.
And you are breaking barriers yourself, aren't you, with your role as support in Parliament?
Yes, yes, I'm. Thank you. You always say so many nice things about what I'm doing. Yes. Okay. So.
You're really more than an academic, you're now.
Yes,
participant.
Yes. How would I describe myself? So I'm trying to find a term to describe myself. But at the moment, I'm describing myself as a scholar activist. So I'm not a scholar up in the ivory tower, just writing papers. Not that there's anything bad with that, but I feel my role really is to bridge the two. That, you know, everyone is in a community. The scholars are doing something else, but also people in the community are paying for the scholars. It's our taxpayers' money that pays for the scholars. So I feel a sense of duty and a sense of, you know, and how would I describe it? A sense of duty and a sense of appreciation that it's my job. It's part of what I was paid to do, to actually bring that knowledge or let the community engage more with academia.
In a way, kind of making it digestible and understandable to ordinary people.
No, not even that.
No?
More than that.
More than that.
Yeah, because ordinary people actually need to make academics challenge academics, because ordinary people, when we think about, because that's the common misconception that academics are supposed to make things digestible to them. Actually, a lot of, I get in the cab and I speak to, you know, cab drivers. Ordinary people, they're just as intelligent as academics. So it's not them making it digestible. It's like they asking questions, or even people, ordinary people challenging academia and asking questions and engaging on the same level. Really, that's really what motivates me.
And especially you're interested in a pioneering area of medicine, the acceptance of cannabis as medicine.
It is.
Where doctors have to be really taught that most doctors don't know cannabis as a medicine or to treat for pain relief.
Yeah, so I think I'm quite fortunate that I've just got into that stage where the medical profession want to, or might need to, have more of a serious discussion or serious dialogue about this is a medicine. So if there's been a change where they have to look at it as a medicine, they now have to ask questions and deal with it as a medicine. Or this is a problem. How are we going to now recommend it? How are we going to do the dosage? How are we now? It's gone from self-help, where the patients were doing it themselves, to the doctors now being part of that discussion. So they have to now open their minds and say, well, how are we going to figure this out? So I'm at that state now that I want to be part of that discussion, or facilitate in some way. Yeah, so I'm in pioneering era.
And is your book coming out of your research?
Hopefully, I'm still working on it. I'm still consolidating it, but it takes a while actually for one to finish it and then find a way to
pioneering area.
and also find a publisher. Yeah, so that will be part of the. I'll put it out to the universe, so that'll be part of the end product of it, like a book.
Yes.
But I'm doing a book now, so as it's going out now, people
This
are
is
picking up ideas from the book. But I'm so happy that I'm with you, because you are part of that book. I interviewed you, and anytime I speak to you, you increase my knowledge.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's very nice.
Yes.
I'm honoured to be in that.
Yeah.
You really are, Lee. You're a very inspiring person, especially from like a Western perspective. Looking at you now, even the way you're dressed, what you told me about your clothing, hemp.
Yeah.
It's actually, do you know what? Who you are is becoming a trend now. Again, it's becoming. That's why I'm so honoured to be around you, because it's like some people call you hippies, free spirits, but you just told us that you had "Don't Search Me" badge on and stuff way back. And these are kind of the problems that we're facing now again. And what would you say? You're kind of like a hippie at heart, or a rebel to Western philosophy?
Yeah. Well, at that time, they had the big hero was James Dean, rebel without a cause, you see. So, or rebel without applause. But anyway, I think I was a left-wing rock and roll rebel, and then a dropout during the hippie era, and tune in, turn on and drop out. And I seem to have found a nice bit of harmony and friendship, and survived a few court cases and silly things.
Wow.
And here we are, as I say.
So just to give everyone a bit of context, Lee was actually born in South Africa. Am I correct there? Yeah. He was born in South Africa. And before we even started recording, we was kind of talking about what it was like being in the UK at the very beginning of your life. Just to even give you a bit of context about this person, I'm in awe of him.
To be in South Africa in the beginning of my life.
Yeah, exactly. Being white as well, obviously, but being in South Africa, coming over, is it called the Windrush? Is that when you came over?
At the time, the same time as the Windrush boat was arriving from Barbados to London in 1956, on the first 380 immigrants that came over on the Windrush. That's why they called it the Windrush generation. It was the first ship, was the Windrush.
Wow, okay.
All these people especially been invited to work on the underground and in the hospital.
Wow, okay. So you was part of that whole movement.
I arrived at about that time by ship from Cape Town to South African docks.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, it's difficult to imagine.
Yes, very hard.
14 days, you see. 14
days.
It was the time when things were still peaceful, when I joined the Congress movement. Which was with the ANC and the Indian Congress, and there was going to be big trials, treason trials, and I thought, well, I was only 18, just turned 19, and I decided to give up my job in this factory where I was an apprentice and save up money and come to England.
Okay.
Which I arrived here beginning of 1956, January.
Wow. By yourself?
In Southampton, by myself.
No parents at 19 years old?
No, I dropped everything and I came to London to wash dishes at night or serve burgers in any job I could get.
Yeah, wow.
So I could go and study drama, went to drama school in London.
So you came here to follow a creative dream, yeah?
Yes.
Drama?
Yes.
Have you been to any notorious schools that anyone would know of?
Yeah, well, I went to drama school, and then I was a repertory actor and a character actor, and I appeared in Ireland with Orson Welles, and then I've spent 18 months
Orson Welles
touring in South Africa in theatre productions.
Oh, so you went back home?
Yes, went back home and played with the Cornish Green, which is a lovely play, and then what was Homesick for London.
You were homesick for London?
Came back here, yes.
So how old was you, Lee, when you started smoking weed?
Well, I was 27. So not that I was an
27.
alcoholic drinker. I hardly drank alcohol. I smoked cigarettes, but I first became a figure in the West End, in the dives and the clubs in Soho.
Yeah.
And with lots of youth things and jazz clubs and left-wing clubs and coffee shops. It was very exciting. And in the early 60s, with the mods coming, there were lots of kids in these clubs there, underage, and taking lots of Purple Hearts.
Purple Hearts, yeah.
Big craze at sixpence a time. So you'd see at the weekend there were kids taking 80 or 90 of these pills. And by 3-4 o'clock on a Saturday night, they were all on the streets in Yewandes, 1,000 kids with dilated pupils.
Wow.
And I saw
Sounds
this
like
there.
now, to be honest.
Yes, and they were getting the horrors, and it was called blocked up. This was the language, and they were ending up on the seaside coasts in the morning.
Wow.
In Margate, and they shot at the Monson riots, Monson rocker riots, and then I helped a boy who had problems and seeing Horace get home on a Sunday morning to his family in Paddington. And there was an MP called Ben Parkin, who'd become famous because he exposed Rahmanism in the area, which is property development extortion, which one of the henchmen for Peter Rahman was Michael Abdullah Malik, who later became Michael X.
Yeah, was there a film? I think there's a film.
Yes,
about Michael. Yes, okay.
Yes, so he exposed Rahmanism, which had to do with the swinging 60s and the perfumer affair.
Yes, all the social.
And so he said, well, I will ask questions in Parliament about this, but as I don't know much, can I give anyone in the press your telephone number?
Okay.
And then a couple of days later, I had a call from a wonderful journalist called Anne Sharpley, who worked for the Evening Standard. She was a top reporter and a protege of Beaverbrook, Lord Beaverbrook, and she was actually the Evening Standard journalist on the Windrush that travelled from Trinidad to London on that plane 10 years earlier.
Wow.
You see. So I took her around to the clubs, and she's a lovely lady, and then at the weekend, the Monday, it was a photo of her hand, and I see Soho's pet pill craze. And then the shop, the clubs were closed, or very few people were in them. And then they got too busy trying to bring a law to outlaw amphetamines. In 1964 Misuse of Drugs Act, which brought in possession as an offence. And
wow.
It's only years later in a scientific paper online called Mixing the Medicine that some Dr. Andrew Wilson talked about how banning amphetamines destroyed the Northern Soul scene.
Okay, music.
And then he's got the 4 people who caused the change. Was number 1, Lee Harris, moral crusader, and the second was Anne Sharpley, investigative journalist. Third was the MP Ben Parkin. Fourth was the Labour Minister of Health at the time, Kenneth Robinson. So I realised that I was a moral crusader.
Yes, I think
and looking back though, I felt ashamed of being a prohibitionist, but I was a typical left-wing moral Puritan. We were looking after the care of children who were underage.
But that's quite interesting, because you could say your arc has started from this almost a reactionary position that out of care. Because if you said you saw people being distressed and you thought this is distressing them, so out of care.
And also I thought coming from South Africa where I was fighting the banning of this and police raids and all this, and here I'd help to get something banned.
Yeah, but it was unintended consequences, that your intentions were very different. So I like the fact that you're a moral crusader, and then the journey has gone somewhere else. Yeah, we'll let
Lee, could I ask you both actually, because I know it's something you both have something to talk about. It's something I don't know about, which is called Delta 9. Could you explain what that is?
THC Delta 9. Well, I will ask Yewande, because she's actually been to Israel to meet Dr. Raphael Meshulam, who's the discoverer of the naming of THC Delta 9.
So the man that discovered THC?
Yeah, the chemical structure of it, which is a chemical on the high part of
so this was someone that you've actually met?
Yes, so part of what I did when I was doing my research was, as I said before, I was going to interview as many people as possible that were related to it. So Meshulam, Professor Meshulam, there's a film about it called The Scientist. It gives a great review about all his work. So he's been working in the field for maybe as long as because THC was isolated. So what?
In the 60s.
1964.
Yes.
So just to keep it very simple, THC is the chemical that gets you high. So you've answered the question really. So that's the chemical in marijuana. Sorry?
It blows me away that within your lifetime that someone only discovered it then. That's like, considering it's the oldest plant ever, that it's only within, I guess, the last 100 years.
Yes, so that's...
Western science has been able to...
The Western science,
Western science.
Yeah, so it has been able to kind of isolate it and say, well, the history of cannabis, although it's been around for a long time, it did, because cannabis has got so many chemicals in it, like over 400. It was difficult to find out which one actually gave the high. So, and it was only by default when you watch The Scientist that he's someone like you that's very motivated. It wasn't a popular site. It wasn't a popular area to investigate. So not a lot of people were trying to kind of isolate it or characterize it. So so that's it. It's a chemical that gets. I
guess he was an interesting person to meet. Wow.
He was actually.
How old was he?
He's I think he must be like 85, but he's in 80s and he's still working. So he's retired. I met him and I met his assistant, and he's supposed to have retired, but he was like busy. And I met this lady and I thought, but you're working. But I said, yeah, I'm retired really. But he's still got, he can't I don't think he'll ever retire. And he has this sense of, almost like, I want this to become a medicine before I die.
And he's doing experiments with 25,000 children with epilepsy.
25,000 children?
Human clinical trials, yes.
Wow.
Yes, but he's dedicated his life work to kind of doing that. Yeah.
Even hearing that 25,000 children, it shows you how important this conversation needs to be had, and it needs to be shared. And I think that's why it's people like you two. And that was he a professor or whoever he was?
Oh, he's a professor. He's past professor. I can't remember his name. He's got so many prizes. He's the main man. He's the grandfather.
Well get the Nobel Prize for medicine.
I don't know why he hasn't won them a Nobel Prize. Really, he's turned it
to coin anandamides.
Okay.
Got it because he gave the name choice to one of his assistants who spent many years working on it, and he used the Sanskrit word ananda. And they added mides. So it's in the medical prescription.
Wow.
Anandamides is a new sort of medicine.
I mean, my mum's very ill. She's been quite ill her whole life, and CBD, seeing the effects on her or other people, is I started off with a rage when I was younger that I grew up around Rastas, and it was very clear to me that it was so much more peaceful than alcohol. Regardless, the fact that it's actually God's plant, whatever you want to call it, it's such a natural thing, and there's been such a fight to bring it, not even just to smoke, but to really to heal humans. I always say that they don't really want 7.5 billion humans working at full efficiency. But why, Lee, from 27 years old, did you become so passionate? Because you're not just someone that actually smokes it. Like you had a shop on Portobello Road. You've obviously done amazing things, publishing your own magazine. You obviously love weed. And I think it's very important for my generation to have met people like you and to understand actually it's so much more than just smoking pot. There's been a movement, there's been a resistance, there's been deep struggles by people like yourself that will be the pioneers of one day this being legalized in the UK.
Yes.
So what is it that at 27 that got you so passionate specifically about weed and not cocaine or not any party drugs, but specifically weed?
Well, one of the things I suppose is that I got busted by usually very ridiculous court cases which I had to fight. So injustice.
Injustice, yeah.
And then lots of the people that were, when they raided my shop because I had Rastafarian things.
Did you say they raided your shop?
When they came to, yes, they raided.
Oh, the police?
Yes, and took the stock, closed the shutters down, came with cameras.
Wow.
And then brought a ridiculous case selling items that can be used in illegal substances. So it was like so it was a silly little case.
So what would you be selling? Just bongs and papers and t-shirts and
maybe
weed?
with Bob Marley symbols with the cannabis leaf on it.
Yeah.
Harmless, really.
Harmless, but then again, it's a very, very rich area of Portobello, right? Like, I consider it kind of an upper class.
It attracted a lot of Rastafarians. I had lots of tams I used to sell. And it was a meeting place. And Benjamin Zephaniah said that when everyone had trouble in Brixton, they said, go and see Lee in Portobello. So I had a whole lot of lovely friends who I still got now. With Aswad and Scratchley Perry came in the shop.
I mean, you're telling me that's and Lenny, not Lenny Henry, what the?
Lenny Kravitz.
Lenny Kravitz, okay.
Yes. And he wanted a big tam. And he said, I'll do you a swap. If you give me the tam, I'll give you tickets for the Brixton Academy for tonight to see my show.
Wow, did you do
backstage, yes, of course.
Backstage?
And then he asked me the next night to come again because he had Bob Marley's mum up on stage.
Wow. So you met Bob Marley's mum?
Yeah, and then I met Lenny Kravitz's mum, Dixie.
Wow.
He brought her down. And next time I met his dad, who called
So you met him a few times?
Leonard, yes, he would pop down and see us down Portobello Road.
Amazing.
That's actually crazy.
We saw a thing the other day, didn't we?
Nice guy.
Yeah. Wow.
It's nice to know that he's a nice guy.
I think people, when they come to the UK, they want to feel comfortable. It's shops like that that are more acceptable in America.
Got a place they can come and say hi.
Yeah. I hope you don't mind me also saying that you're Buddhist as well. From a younger age, you've really taken on to Buddhism.
From in my 30s or so, yes.
In your 30s?
Yes, but I've been a Buddhist for 45 years. So came to a semi-ling retreat in Scotland.
Semi-ling retreat?
Yeah, and picked up the work of Churjan Trungpa, the Rinpoche, and I liked what he had to say. And I like the be here now, the openness. So I suppose
So are you still practicing yourself?
I got a photo.
Yeah, he was saying this guy. By the way, he was married in this beautiful yellow shirt.
In a Buddhist temple.
In a Buddhist temple.
And by 5 Thai monks.
By 5 Thai monks. Most of you are in Wandsworth Town Hall, mate. This guy is 5 Thai monks in a Buddhist centre. It's just, it's simply incredible.
Wandsworth Town Hall.
Sorry?
Who got married?
I'm just saying most people.
Yeah.
Most people are,
that's when my sister got married.
Oh!
So one extreme to another.
Yeah. I mean, both beautiful. Both.
Yes.
But my Thai the Thai temple was in Barnes.
Okay.
It's moved to Wimbledon, you see, but...
Oh, is it the one with the big white tent?
Yes.
And it's, the monks walk around?
Yes.
Okay, I go there sometimes to meditate.
It was really quite a beautiful ceremony.
Wow.
And when my wife died 33 years later, we had a Buddhist celebration of her death. We painted the coffin with flowers. We played good vibrations.
Medicalization. I think, let's say we have to prioritize people. Let's say people that
actually, I think.
That's where I came into it. So if I was going to prioritize it, we need to look at the medicalization. And once you're doing the medicalization, the legalization are really to the other social use are 2 separate things. And for us to even people that want to have it socially, to actually even understand that maybe medical is a priority, and let's actually understand the medical because with medical then actually it makes it kind of separate, and maybe by then the social other things would have shifted, and the questions you'll be asking will be different. They won't just be easy to blanket legalization. You may be asking more critical questions.
Or that you see the anarchists or free spirits who like grow your own, 3 or 4 plants to grow your own without it being a criminal offence. Because most people who you medicate like that have sore backs or little pains like most people where it helps them get off the alcohol and have something. So and I think it's the other way. Once it's moved to the health issue rather than as a police issue, people leave the police because by stealth the police do not want to arrest people for possession or for a few plants. It's coming with the crime commissioners and it's changing.
Absolutely.
And I found I had a talk with an ex-police inspector recently, and I mean they realise, the officers who don't want to punish people anymore, and so there's a change coming.
There is definitely all you have to do is look at the shops on the high streets like Holland and Barrett's now. They've got CBD oil and that's legal now, right? In the UK, CBD oil. Yeah, that's a big shift.
But it's important also in this conversation to actually. This is why we need to understand what the medical is, because when people say CBD oil, it's kind of a generic statement, but we don't really know what CBD oil is apart from the CBD in Holland and Barrett. That's very different from the people that I see online that said I want CBD oil. We don't know what that is. Someone says it's CBD oil, but we don't know what strain it was, how it was extracted, how much CBD is in it. So it's still kind of.
So you're saying the companies that are currently selling it, they just don't know what they're selling.
So there's
people
companies
calling other people scammers.
So there are companies that make it, that CBD oil for Holland and Barrett, but they're homegrown people because it's not regulated.
Seriously?
Yes, if you go online, it's not regulated. It's not regulated
And as long as it hasn't got THC, it's legal CBD oils. So you can have CBD oils without THC in it.
But what I'm actually saying, when we say CBD oils, CBD oils is just a generic thing. It's just like saying we have aspirins. But actually, if you don't have a company that has actually made an aspirin, tested an aspirin, and actually has quality control, you can see when I go to the shop, I know I'm buying aspirin because it's got this amount of chemical in it. It's been standardized. We can't. Then we're just saying, see, we don't know what it is.
You can do it with GW Pharma. You see, that is because they went through the stages with the law, how much clinical trials for rats and different agreements, and then got it slowly into America and state after state.
So that's what I was like.
And they have the exclusive of the market.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to explain, that once something is a medicine, so for the general public, they know something is a medicine because actually it's been prescribed by the doctor, and actually they've gone into Boots, and if they buy an aspirin, it's the same aspirin all the time, So I didn't want to mention any names of any company, but but what you described this is a medicine. Whereas when you
and they're not giving it out that easily because it's so expensive.
But actually, it's just a medicine. Whereas compared to when it says CBD oil, you can go online. It's generic. No, they've not. It's not gone through. It's not gone through any regulation, so you don't know what you're buying. Whereas the one in Holland and Barrett, that one, you know what you're buying because they have to. It has to be standardized. They have to test it. So the public have to know that difference. That actually we're not at that point yet. Everyone. So what's in CBD oil? We don't know. The CBD oil you buy in the shop is different, and actually that is not even medicine. It's kind of like a herb.
It's like a therapy.
Yes, it's kind of like a wellness. That's why they can get it in. It's got a certain amount of CBD. You can't make any claims if you've got. So there's a category. So if you go and buy some herbal, if you go to
like any herbal remedy.
Any herbal remedy, they're not categorized as medicine.
So they always advise don't use this as your main medicine.
Or consult a doctor. Consult a doctor. So there are things that have had a folklore use. So that's a different category.
Wow.
Then so that's one of the things that I'm very involved in doing, to say that we for people to understand that we don't have, it's not, when something's not a medicine, it's kind of folklore, so we don't know. Someone might go online, you don't know what you're buying.
Just anecdotal evidence.
But you actually don't know what's in it. Someone says CBD oil 5%. What is that? And it's not been tested. Or else CBD oil from Holland and Barrett has to make sure that it's got a certain amount every time. It's got quality control.
So you're saying, obviously, just so I'm clear, the oils that people are buying online, not the stuff in Holland and Barrett.
Yes, there's a difference. Certain Holland and Barrett has certified, it's gone through, or else anything else that someone says CBD oil, we don't know what it is.
It's going crazy on like Instagram and stuff. People are going like there's brands all the time now.
But even the brands,
some of the businesses have good names.
But even the brands all the time, it's like, okay, even they are trying to say, well, this is the certificate of analysis. We're moving to that point where people are actually saying, well, this is standardized, this is what's been done. But we're still in that grey space until it becomes a medicine. The only medicine that has been approved is the one called EP.1, which is from that is a pharmaceutical.
EP.1.
Yeah, it's a pharmaceutical.
For epilepsy.
Yeah.
And this is now a legal medicine.
Satifex was one for MS. Which they put out. This is a new one coming out. The EP.1.
And that would have CBD in.
So the EP.1, so that was developed. So a lot of that's a pharmaceutical.
For people with
childhood
convulsions
epilepsy.
and childhood epilepsy.
So like deep epileptic people that can't even control it. Okay.
Yeah, the children like Billy Caldwell. That's case that was this summer in England.
Is that a UK case about marijuana?
Yes.
Billy Caldwell.
Northern Ireland. It's UK.
Okay.
Yeah. So he had a childhood epilepsy. So the point which your question will lead to is, well, there's a difference. So there's that on the market is a medicine. It's gone through. It's had to go through lots of preclinical trials. It's gone through the whole.
Wow.
Almost like 20 years of development.
Yeah. Okay.
Compared to someone that's making their own in their house, folklore, and that's what's been available.
Is that actually a word, folklore?
Well,
is that kind of like
so also this is something that's a medicine, then something that's homemade. Not that
what does it take to actually become a medicine? Just so people, this is all brand new. What does it has to go through like a lot of procedures?
Well, before something becomes a pharmacy, so before it has to go through a lot of because if you think about it. You can take a medicine, and the medicine can kill you if you don't take the right dose. Getting everything right from getting what is the extract you're going to use, or what is the molecule you're going to use. Test it. So sometimes test it in animals, so test it in the lab. See what your results you get in the lab.
Do we have to? Does each country have to do it themselves? Because surely, if America have tested and they've now got all these medical marijuanas and they're actually medical, you can't just take their study and research and just
so what we're classing medical marijuana, actually, especially for America, people have to note this. It's just a term to say this is different from the social use.
Wow.
If you think about it, the only real medical cannabis that we've got is the one that has gone through all these stages. So
which is then what, them two ones you just said?
And there's
only 2 tablets right now on the planet.
Well, two medicines, and although there are going to be some that are coming up, but those are the ones.
They're Canadian.
There's some that are
and in Israel.
They're coming up, but the mainstream ones in regarding to like a British company or the leaders in this area that are really medicine. To say, well, there's a difference from medicine and self-medication. So we have the self-medication, which people have had to do for themselves, because that's what's. When people are ill, and if cannabis has helped them, they've done the self-medication. So they've actually done kind of a lot of work to make themselves better, because it wasn't available. So there are 2 streams. There's self-medication, and there's also a stream that's a new emerging field, which is trying to make medicine out of cannabis. And it's not been straightforward. It's because it's a difficult plant to actually. It's not the standard way of making a medicine. Because most people, they'll say
cannabis-derived medicine.
Cannabis-derived medicine. So compared to, let's say, I want to make a medicine out of that cacti.
What do you think that this very medicine, which is EP.1, that the firm that's GW Pharma, that Philip May has a 22% share in his company. within the cannabis grown in Wissington, Norfolk, you see. So, and Victoria Atkins, who was the Home Office Minister, she's been recused from her position because her husband is chief executive of British Sugar. They did the deal with GW Pharma.
I know, but this is where, as a historian, I can't, because I can't. We have to be very careful that
It's difficult.
there's nothing wrong against people investing. I mean, if I know what I knew now, I would have invested in GW Pharmaceuticals in 1998.
Yeah.
That this is going to be a new company that are going to.
I have a few little shares in it.
You don't.
From way back.
You were way ahead of the game. So actually,
and it went down for a long time.
and then I would invest it, and in them there. So sometimes I feel that I don't want to get distracted from those arguments. That
and your research wouldn't be ethical if you had shares in the company.
Yeah, I would have maybe have done that. No, I can declare it probably. I probably could declare. Yeah, it'll be difficult.
It seemed a bit biased. Yeah.
It's a bit difficult. So actually, I have to finish being an academic, and then maybe the next 5 years, and then go and develop my own cannabis business.
But can I just say, you know, you said like it's a very hard plant to make medicine out of.
It is.
I respect that and I understand, but just maybe it's ignorance. But I see Babylon making AI technology that's almost fully conscious. Are you telling me they can't invest? It feels like it's being held back. Like, you can't invest in.
But now it is. It's just the knowledge. So I was just going to give the example. So let's say I wanted to make an extract out of that cactus plant. Yeah. There's already a system that the scientist has developed. That this is the methodology we're going to use. We're going to just look for one or a couple of molecules and then screen it and then look. The reason why they can't do it with cannabis is for most drug, they call them drug interactions. There's kind of a way they look at the molecule and they look at how is it going to interact, what part of the body, what's the receptor that's going to do that. And it's been easy. They call it like a single molecule. You've got like a lock and a key. Wow. So there's a system that does that. With cannabis, they've not been able to do that because cannabis is not that lock and key model. It's more complicated. So it's not that they don't want to invest. It's more complicated. And then the other things that we've said, socially, the stigma, it wasn't an easy drug that people wanted to look into.
So on top of all of this, on top of it being a difficult plant to extract and understand, obviously going back 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30 years, it's also a grey area and people didn't want to. And if you then went into it, you were seen as a hippie.
Or even scientists were stigmatized. Even till now, I interviewed scientists that they said they were kind of ahead of the game. They really
they understood,
No, they took a risk with their profession.
Wow.
If in your profession people are not going to take it seriously, these dope scientists, you know. So the scientists I interviewed. So why would you want to if you're just finished your PhD and you want to take advice? It's like no. So even everyone I've met have always inspired me that, oh my God, I don't think if I would have taken this, it's easy for me to come in the end when it's almost said it's not. I didn't feel any stigma. Although to be honest, when I first started, I don't come from the drug culture. I don't smoke. So when people ask me about my PhD, I never could say. I used to say I'm researching cannabinoids. It took me like a year to say I'm doing cannabis. And that was me researching. I just felt this stigma on myself. I was saying cannabinoids because actually the chemicals in cannabis are cannabinoids. But I couldn't say cannabis for like a year. So you
even felt that energy.
I felt that because it's like, well, what do I wasn't comfortable. I hadn't done anything. So in your first year, you don't really know what you're doing. I hadn't done anything. It was only after my first year that I had an idea of what I was going to do. And I said, I do cannabis and I could talk about it. Right. But for a whole year, I was like under the radar saying I do cannabinoids and people weren't really interested. And once you say cannabis, you get into a conversation. But I wasn't ready to have that conversation because I wasn't sure about how I felt about it with people. Because you have to introduce yourself and people make that judgment about you. Else now I don't. I feel I have to put something in that even when I met the Home Office Secretary, Sajid Javid, I went up to him and shook his hand and said, "Oh, so good to meet you. I'm so excited about what you've done. You know, I've just finished doing my PhD in medical cannabis."
Wow.
I kind of owned
Strong,
it 4 years
yeah,
later,
yeah.
saying, hello, Sidi Jared, da 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 da. It was a job, you know, kind of thing. Yeah, okay.
I think it's so important though
Yeah.
that like someone like yourself that doesn't actually take the drug,
No, yeah.
very well spoken and stuff like that, can stand and also represent it alongside people like me and Lee. Because most people, when we think of weed, like we did the hostel. I don't know if we met at a hosting. No, we met. It was a hosting.
Oh, the hosting I came to
So just to give some context as well, we was all
Yeah.
part of a political party which was called Sister at the time, and we was involved in just trying to like look at them and see what they were about. I think it's called Think Tank. You said now, right?
Yes,
And I remember my friend. He was the one that we all know that was doing the hosting, and he, like us, Lee, all of us, he was wearing linen, and you know, he was a Rasta and he had dreads. And I think as much as we and you can speak about this, it's so good to have someone that can literally say, listen, I don't take this, so this is just an outside perspective.
Yes.
And I've researched this, there's no bias here. And these are kind of the benefits, because most people do think that people that smoke weed have a beard and wear linen tops like me. And it is true, like, you are a stereotype, Lee, and I love it. Like, you're my brother for life. But it's true, yeah, like a true hippie. You know, first of all, most people find it mad that I'm a Buddhist, let alone Lee being white. You know, it's crazy to me. Do you know what I mean?
Some punk said, "Never trust a hippie."
Never trusted it. Do you mind quickly just talking a bit about, actually, just because we don't have too long left, but the situation with something you was trying to sell jelly to Princess Diana?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Well, it was royal jelly.
Oh, right.
Royal jelly is it's what the worker bees feed the queen bee. And they live for 4 months or 6 months, and she lives for 5 years.
So you're talking about bees now, yeah? The worker bees,
it is the
giving it to
royal
them.
jelly, the
Royal
special secretion.
Wow.
And that has a great tonic effect, and was mentioned by Roald Dahl in one of his stories.
Wow.
But, I inherited a business once in a health food. Later Bay Royal Jelly from France was imported for many years before I had it in Fortnum and Masons and Harrods.
Crème de la crème.
So I would supply the royal jelly. And then in the mid-80s, I read in the Evening Standard that Margaret Thatcher, who was Prime Minister at the time, takes royal jelly. And I had an order big order from Fortnum and Mason's big store, and I delivered it to the back door, as I did to the warehouseman. And I went into the store, and they were all very smart. And I spoke to one of the assistants, and I said, "Which royal jelly does Margaret Thatcher take?"
Okay.
And he says, "Your royal jelly." And I personally delivered it to Downing Street, and she signed the chit for it.
Wow.
So I said, "Oh, do you think I can have that?" He said, "No, I'm keeping it for my grandchildren." And then I left the God, I'm the one who's supplying Margaret Thatcher with her royal jelly.
That's amazing.
From Portobello Road. And in Harrods, my customers were Princess Diana and Bruce Forsyth. I used to do.
So it's like a miracle secretion from bees that keep you young. Is that
Yes.
kind of like a golden? It must have been very expensive.
It is very expensive.
It was big.
Very
It was big.
expensive.
Yeah.
And very
Have you heard of it then?
Yes.
You know about it.
Yes.
And
But I've forgotten.
it's like the herbal remedies you're saying of folklore.
Yes. Yeah.
Like and sometimes they do work. I've been having a bit of swollen ankles, and I heard from a friend, and I sting it with stinging nettles. I put them on my toes and my ankles, and for 15 minutes it stings the hell.
Yeah, you told me this when you came here today.
It's an inflammatory. It gets the blood circulation in my feet, and I can walk.
Where do you get the stinging then? Do you have loads in your garden?
Yes, I got a big wild
What's
garden.
that?
Lots of nettles.
Do you just
and
put
I
your
believe
feet
you can
into
make
it?
wine, stinging nettle wine. I'm waiting for him. Friend who's brewing me some.
Yeah.
But I saw a guy come who had a bad knee and lifted up his trousers and he did it round his knee. So there's a whole lot of medicines that the Western medicine has no cure for.
I know.
Certain chronic pains
Yeah.
and things. So we need our herbal medicine.
That's crazy.
Or alternative or integrated medicine.
And earlier you was also talking to me a bit about how you I'm not sure if he was arrested, but he was around Nelson Mandela as well when he came to the country.
Oh yes, when I was 18 in South Africa, I was honoured to be involved in the Congress movement with the African National Congress, the Indian Congress, and there was the white people, the Congress of Democrats, and I worked in a factory with Indian garment workers, and I met Mandela when he was preparing for an event called the Congress of the People in Cliptown location.
Okay.
And I would every Sunday go to townships with the groups of people, everywhere the special branch looking on. And in the preparation, some professor took me to Mandela and Tambo's office. They were lawyers, and they had glass lettering, Mandela and Tambo in the window.
Wow.
And I sat with my friends now and talking to Mandela.
Wow.
And I was very inspired by the whole Congress movement there.
Deep.
And was at the Congress of the People June the 25th, 26th, 1955. And on the second day, the Sunday, we were surrounded by armed police.
Wow.
With 200 police with rifles against this crowd of 3,000.
That must have been scary.
And yes, and I was the youngest there at 18, selling the political newspapers. And
Selling political newspapers at 18. What kind of soul?
amazing, because hours to get out because we all had to be searched. And I still kept some pamphlets in my sock.
You're radical. I see a film.
Literally a
But
book
they
needs
were,
to be done.
after that was treason trials, which were 96 people on, and I decided to come to England and try my luck. But I came to England at 18, at least I was a pacifist and an anti-racist. And so I learned my two good things.
It must have been so interesting coming to England at that time, seeing so much racism and being white
It was
but
terrible.
African.
Because at that time,
Confusion.
you couldn't get it if you were Afro-Caribbean, you couldn't get a room in Earl's Court. There was no colours, please, on all the boards.
I didn't know there was please there. Was there was no coloured? Was there a please? No coloured
Yes,
please?
sometimes.
My mind never.
Coloured
say
police.
Colours.
Please.
Please.
Yeah, polite. Yeah.
No colours, no Irish, no dogs. There were those, but people would just say politely, no colours, please.
Wow.
They must be felt very guilty.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't know that narrative of no colour, please.
Ruckman did so well because he gave a whole room. He put a whole family in one room, and he got rid of the old Irish sitting tenants.
Because people were desperate.
Yes.
So he found an opportunity. But this is where history is so important, or you're living history.
You're living history.
Yeah,
People don't
because
get to see this.
I know no colour. I haven't seen it, or I've seen one or two. But in my consciousness, I know no Irish, no dogs, no blacks, no Jews. But I've never seen no coloured. The please makes it a bit more
twisted.
No coloured please. Wow, that's
like a nice
blown my
white
mind.
lady in a little cottage.
And
like,
you understand that those people actually felt a bit guilty.
Yes.
That even within that, there's a difference that, these are really militant, and those people that think, well, actually, I don't feel too comfortable about this, but no.
I'm gonna have to ask you though, just rub off please.
Yeah, I remember. Wow.
A lot of Australians and South Africans there. And of course the South African tourists were the worst because they'd been brought up in apartheid, where they couldn't see together. And I remember a South African girl, we were outside the Overseas Visitors Club, and she saw a white girl walking with a black man in the street, and she said, look at that, I'm going to be sick, she said. I think, oh, fucking hell, then. Excuse my language, because their mental attitude, they lived in Africa with Africans all their life, but they never see a black man with a white woman together.
Yeah, they couldn't do that under apartheid.
Yeah. Immorality Act.
Yeah, it's a way of
it's like the big Eton educated Rudd man. He was caught with the African showgirl. Singer Dolly Ratiba.
Okay.
And
your memory is incredible.
She got 6 months
in
imprisonment, not him.
Oh, she was imprisoned.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, it was so.
Well, she was a white lady.
No, she was the black lady.
Yeah, the black lady was the actress. They didn't want to imprison this guy who worked for the mines and was Eton educated.
Wow. Didn't you say earlier as well that when you came to the country, you saw everyone had servants? I mean, there weren't slaves obviously, but servants, and you're all only black.
Yeah, everybody had servants. Every white person had a servant.
Wow.
And
What era was this?
And they were all called, well, all throughout the apartheid era, they were always called the girl, which could be 50 years old, which is, or the boy, the house boy, and he could be a gardener. And he never had a name. This boy come here. You see, there was
dehumanised, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just,
That's the word.
I mean, you're not allowed on the same buses,
Yeah, it's the same.
on the same benches in park, European, non-European.
It was the same in America. This is the
Yes.
same institutionalised.
And how they
Wow.
actually, how Mandela broke it down in 27 years in prison. It was a hard struggle. Started off peaceful in the Gandhi life.
People my age don't know this, don't have a clue. You know?
Sorry?
People my age, we don't have. I think we know it, but to actually sit down and speak to
It's
someone
true, actually.
who actually saw no coloured
Who
pleats.
lived it? It's true.
Yeah. 'Cause, like the whole Rosa Parks movement, the whole racism is something we don't really understand fully. We only, I think he really would. Do you know what I mean? I think we all do understand it. We've been victims of it, but there's literally only like kind of like a couple generations back. It's a whole different world.
Different type.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That like you have to like sleep in different sides of the rooms and buses and it's just crazy. Yeah. It's mad.
It's just transformed now. It's different.
In Rhodesia, Smith, the last white ruler, said, not in 1,000 years. But it didn't take a few years and he was finished.
Wow.
Yes, people always underestimate the power of the will to be free.
Yes.
So the boy and the girl was never made to be the boy and the girl. They were supposed to be people. So people if you're in power, you always underestimate the boy or the girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And Mandela was a great healer. And he didn't stay in power too long. Because he'd been in prison so long, he came 5 years in power and then he passed.
Well, yeah, he was a reformer really. He wasn't really interested in just I want to be.
Yes.
Yeah, he wanted to reform his society, and then the people after did different things. But at least he did his bit. Yeah.
So guys, before we go about 10 minutes before we're gonna wrap this up. Don't want to keep you too long. This is just something I really want to just mention because I think it's really incredible. I'd like you to explain this. It's actually something you've given me. It's a book. But so Lee does a lot of things, but he also he publishes for people, right? So you publish books.
Yeah, I publish an underground comic called Brainstorm. This is a complete work. It's a work of Brian Talbot, The Return of the Psychedelic Alchemist.
Okay.
Because Chester B. Ackles is the hero of the book, and he goes on all sorts of mind trips, and it's what work, and he's become the founder of the graphic novel.
Okay.
And he's just been made a fellow of the Royal Society of Literature.
Wow.
So
Good.
to
Congratulations.
discover the young artist who came down from Preston at 20 years old.
It's amazing.
And he works with his wife, Dr. Mary Talbot. She's a feminist linguist at Sunderland University. Oh, you dare say mankind in front of
Mankind. Wow.
Well, we need feminist linguists to.
I was just saying, I just want to thank you again for being here, man, and for being your damn courageous selves, and just thank you for being authentic, both of you, because I'm going to try and spend the rest of my life speaking about the benefits of marijuana, the benefits of Oriental and Eastern philosophy, and the benefits of just being happy as hell every single day, and that's how we change the world. You change yourself, you work on yourself, and it's one of the hardest things actually to look in the mirror and be authentic, because you're thinking about your culture, you're thinking about your parents' opinions, you're thinking about all of these kind of things, that when you can stare in the mirror and look at yourself and actually be Aaron Lindsay Miller of the entire universe, life changes. And I feel like I attracted two of the most powerful souls in the UK, so thank you for being here. I love you guys, yeah. One love.
One love.
One love.
That was amazing. That's just.
One love.
Thank you so much, everyone, for making this happen.